So here's the truth about retirement that nobody really talks about. About 67% of people who retire are actually happier after they retire, according to the research. But you know what? What they leave out of this is that after the 2 years are over, that little honeymoon phase, there's a dip in happiness and fulfillment, just kind of like, the honeymoon you get when you get married. After the excitement wears off, there's reality setting in, and that's exactly what happens to retirees as well. Hi, I'm Lisa. I'm Canadian, and I've been retired since 2021. I retired at 54, so I've been in this for a few years now, going on 5 years. And I can tell you from experience, I had that honeymoon phase where I traveled, I was in the, I'm retired, I'm free, to then, okay, now that I've fulfilled those things, now what? Now life, real life kicks in, and I'm having to make decisions about where I'm going to live, and then there's the day-to-day, and now we sit around and go, okay, is this it? But you know what? This stuff is not talked about in the brochures. We think it's going to be an endless vacation, and it's not. So I'm here to talk about a list of things that I wish I had known before I pulled the plug and decided to retire, because it would have changed my plans, and I hope this helps you out too. My first lesson was around having a home. This one really caught me off guard because I thought, you know what, I'm going to retire, I'm going to figure out where I'm going to live because I was moving cities, and I'm going to rent until I want to settle in, and then I'll buy. Because I had a pretty good portfolio, and I thought, you know what, I've got the money to offset the mortgage. They'll see that I'm good for it. That's not the way it works. I found out the hard way that retirees really have a hard time getting a mortgage because we're not working. And in fact, when I sat down with a mortgage broker, she suggested that I go get a job at McDonald's just so that I could show on my resume that I was working. I thought, oh my goodness. So there I was, financially secure enough to retire, but suddenly I couldn't qualify for a mortgage. Oh, it was frustrating. And, it kind of felt a little bit ridiculous because when you've got the money but you can't access financing at reasonable terms, that threw me for a loop. So in hindsight, I know I wouldn't have bought anyway because of the way that my life was, and I was moving to a different province and I was just checking things out. But I thought I do want to mention this to you guys because you need to know that the day you stop working is the day you stop qualifying for a mortgage, unless you can buy the property outright. Another thing I wish I had known, if I could go back and talk to my 40-year-old self, I'd say, Lisa, really start developing some hobbies. Because what I've noticed is I've moved into a 55-plus community. And here we all are sharing our interests and our talents, creating these clubs. I just felt that a whole bunch of people were bringing things to the table, and I realized that I don't have these hobbies like playing the piano or any kind of instrument. So I guess, when everyone's pooling interests and talking about things that they can contribute, I feel kind of useless. And I feel like saying, well, I was really good at, PowerPoint presentations. I could show you how to do that. I was an English teacher for many years, so I guess we could do book club. But you know what? This is exactly why I learned how to work online, because I'm challenging my brain, I'm learning new skills, and to me, those are my interests. And so I'm glad that I jumped into that, because I think without that, I'd be very lost today. So the bottom line is start building some hobbies, some interests earlier on in life, because those are the types of things that you're going to take with you into retirement. So I see people doing things like woodworking and painting and cake decorating, photography. Photography is a big one. Just things that you do that are going to be of interest to you, bring you joy, fill your time, because you are going to lean heavily on those things in retirement. Because you know what? They're not even just time fillers. They're also ways to connect with other people who have like interests. And speaking of making connections, Let's talk about loneliness, because this one can actually sneak up on you. This is another reason why I moved into a 55 plus community condo, because I wanted to make sure that I was filling that void, because I found myself becoming more and more withdrawn, and that bothered me. And you know, being a teacher my whole life, I guess I didn't realize how much I relied upon my job for that socialization. You know, because I'd see my colleagues in the hallways and at lunchtime and over morning coffee, and we'd go for drinks on Fridays and celebrated each other's new children and birthdays, you know, all those things. And they were not just my colleagues, they were my social connection. So when I'm no longer teaching, that part of my life also disappeared. So far I'm enjoying the condo, but let me tell you, like, making friends at 58 is a little different than making friends in your 20s and your 30s. We come with a whole lot of attitude and experiences and belief systems, so it's a little different for sure. So what I wish I'd known before is not to underestimate just how much my social life came from my work. So before you retire, start those social connections outside of your job. Join clubs, volunteer, get involved in community activities. And seriously, something like a 55 plus community. I know there's a lot of crazy stories out there, but so far for me, it's actually been pretty good, especially if you're moving to a new area. Something else that I talk about in another video, but it is so important that I'm going to bring it up again, is your health. And I think at a younger age, I was just kind of taking my health for granted. And when I ran into some problems, I thought, you know what, I'll be able to deal with it in retirement. I do have more time to go to doctors and take care of myself. But you know what? Had I been more preventative when I was younger, I wouldn't be having some of these issues now. So what I wish I'd known is how important it was to invest in my health as much as it was to invest in myself financially. So start exercising now, fix your diet, deal with those health issues you've been putting off, get those regular checkups. Your 58 or 65-year-old self will either thank you for it later or will resent you for it later. Up to you. And here's something else I wish I'd known earlier, is that regardless of how much money I was able to put away, I'm still going to be anxious about it. It's something that keeps me up at night sometimes. Even though I know that the money is there, I keep thinking, what if there's a market crash? What if there's something that I can't foresee? I live longer than I expected to live. There's so many different things, you know, catastrophic things that I think about that could possibly happen. And I have read in the literature that this applies to everybody, regardless of whether they have 500,000 put away or 5 million put away. It didn't seem to matter. They were still anxious. They were so worried that they were going to run out of money before they passed. But guess what? The literature says that we tend to outlive our money. In fact, most people have about 70% of their retirement funds when they pass away. They hadn't spent it. And especially if you're investing in something where your money is constantly making money for you. And get this, studies show that by the time retirees reach their 80s, they still haven't touched about 3/4 of their savings. But here's why. After 30 some years of constantly thinking about it and saving it, being frugal, being that saver is part of our identity. So it's pretty hard just to flip the switch on a dime. So give yourself some grace. But this is another reason why I work online, because not only is it helping my old noodle, it's also helping my pocketbook. And so even though I've done everything I could beforehand to try to set myself up for retirement properly, I just feel better knowing that I'm still contributing to those funds by working online and making that extra money. So something to think about, if you are anxious about money, then hitting that retirement number is not going to fix that. So consider working with a financial therapist or even a psychologist to address the root of money anxiety before you retire. And maybe build in some flexible income streams. not because you need them, but because they might give you peace of mind. I don't want to scare anyone away from retirement. The 67% who are happier, I'm in that group, and honestly, despite any of the challenges, I wouldn't go back to working full-time ever. But I do want you to be prepared for the reality and not the fantasy. So here's my advice to you after having been retired for almost 5 years now. Number one, buy your property before you retire if having a home is in your future plans. Develop your hobbies earlier so that you can take them with you into retirement because they are going to be your social currency. Build those social connections outside of work. Get involved in your community. Have those social connections that have nothing to do with your job. 4, invest in your health as aggressively as you would invest in your wealth. Make sure that you're going into retirement as healthy as possible. And last, address that money anxiety because it will follow you into retirement. Remember, 500,000, 5 million, it doesn't matter. You're going to stay awake at night thinking, do I have enough? And be aware that there is a honeymoon phase when it comes to retirement. I had mine, it was amazing, but when reality hits, you'll be glad you prepared for what comes next. So I'd love to hear from you. What surprised you most about retirement? Or if you're still working, what worries you most about it? Drop it in the comments. I'd like to see what you have to say. And if this resonated with you, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button because I'm going to be sharing a bunch more videos with you about basically starting over because I started over as a retiree, a divorcee, and in a completely different city all at the same time. So my situation is a little unique for sure, but all the lessons are still the same. It's a scary thing to go through those life changes, and I'm here just trying to figure things out and willing to share what I know and have learned along the way. So have a great day.